Picking up right where we left off the last time, the Shackled Canyon is a side dungeon which leads to the Lair of the Eyeless, where you fight Raze. It is a dangerous area filled with enemies sporting long-range rifles and a keen accuracy, determined to bring you down to the deepest depths of the canyon. The main hazards in this location include 2 different slingers, equipped either with a hunting rifle or grenade launcher, and wasteland and stalker hounds. Granted, gravity must also be seen as an adversary of the greatest concern, as the entire settlement is built on the very edges of a seemingly bottomless pit. So straying too near the edge of any pathway would certainly be one way to increase the odds of embracing your mortality at terminal velocity. Crossing a bridge while getting knocked back by an enemy attack could be another. The Cyclops is an elite enemy that may spawn in this dungeon. They can be quite dangerous as they can fire an unbroken beam of radiation towards you across large distances. The first time I encountered this attack was actually during my first hardcore run, and in this very side dungeon. I will forever remember getting destroyed in a few damage ticks by a line of radiation from across the chasm. It was a hard lesson to take in at the time, since I lost quite a few hours of progress, but it was important, because now I know not to repeat the same mistake of fighting them in the open. Aim for their head in between the attacks and you should be able to readily dispose of them. The Contaminator is another elite enemy that may spawn in this dungeon. It is also a dangerous foe to come upon, since they have the ability to summon radioactive clouds on your position, which they will continue to do even after you have broken line of sight. Their persistent attacks mean you only have 2 choices: eliminate them quickly or run away for a long time. I would recommend taking them out quickly, since they are rather weak, and the head is a weak spot that can make them stagger. Having to run away while trying to dodge all the irradiation blasts can be quite difficult, as their hitbox can be deceptively large. You'll see a good example of that very soon, as I was caught in a bad spot, fighting both a Cyclops and a Contaminator at the same time. While being pinned down behind a rock by the Cyclops, the Contaminator started charging up its radiation bombs, and in the end I died from one of its explosions. Rather annoyingly, I might add, because I thought I was outside of its reach. Attempting to complete this dungeon with a close range build would be rather challenging, if not straight up foolhardy. Since the enemy riflemen are prone to keep their distance and take accurate shots at you from afar, you would surely sustain considerable damage before you even got near them. If you insist on such an approach, I can recommend bringing any tools that could aid in distracting your foes or protecting yourself as you close the distance, such as summons or damage reducing weapon mods. Use any cover to your advantage and you should be able to scrape by, perhaps with a few extra notches in your armor. Prioritize elite enemies such as the Cyclops, and also be wary of nearby barking adversaries before they bite you in the rear. Make sure to clear all alerted enemies so they are not left alive on a different floor than you and hit you in the back when you move out. The Hunter's Mark weapon mod readily highlights nearby enemies and makes this an easy task. The next major event in the video is at 0715, so feel free to skip ahead if you'd like. Band of Strength is a ring that increases melee damage by 5% for 10 seconds after a charged melee attack. It stacks up to 4 times, giving a maximum 20% of bonus damage. Since melee combat in Remnant from the Ashes is typically something only veteran players seeking an extra challenge would ever attempt, this ring has little use for most regular players. Not to mention, it requires you to consistently perform heavy melee attacks, which, depending on the weapon, are the most difficult to master and find openings for during a fight. Even for hardcore melee-only fans, there are plenty of rings that would do a better job at fitting whatever purpose they might be looking for. Therefore, I would classify this ring as an intermittent item that someone might use while traversing the world looking for the item they actually want, and switching it out immediately afterwards.
Oh God, what is that? Oh, it's over.
Glowing Rod is a quest item. There are 3 glowing rods in total, 2 of them scattered across random dungeons, and the third one in a specific dungeon. The specific dungeon is Vault of the Herald, which will show up later in the video. If you have this dungeon in your campaign, you will always have 2 glowing rods somewhere in the world, so if you reach the end of Rhom and still haven't found all 3 rods, it might be worth revisiting some of the previous dungeons for one extra look. Or if you prefer a simpler approach, you can just reroll Rhom in either the campaign or adventure mode until you get Vault of the Herald as your side dungeon, since it has a guaranteed glowing rod in it. Once I reached the end of the dungeon, I went back to the ward to prepare for the upcoming boss fight. This meant upgrading my repeater pistol and applying the Seed Caller mod on it. I might as well have put nothing on the pistol, but I figured if nothing else, the root hollows might help soaking up some attention from the boss or its ads. In hindsight, I would say that entertaining that notion was entirely too optimistic of me, as they were about as useful as an inside-out umbrella in a rainstorm. If I had any better weapon mod, I would have surely applied it instead. I also upgraded my quick hands trait for a slightly increased reload speed right before entering through the fog gate.
later. You've killed the dragon. Now kill the... Fine, let's have a look. I've got work to do.
Ah, good. What do you need? Take care, my friend.
Raze is a larger version of the Sentinel Skull elite enemy. It seems to be both fire and radiation based since it lives in a radioactive pool and has a fiery core and has mostly fire based attacks. I would rank Raze as one of the simpler bosses in the Remnant from the Ashes universe, but if you are struggling with this fight, I would recommend using a hydrocoolant, as this would reduce the burning status buildup as well as overall damage taken. You can also use them during the fight to quickly remove the burning effect, instead of having to douse the flames through dodging or rolling. Raze has the ability to open its center to scream and summon Wasteland and Blight Skulls to its aid during the fight. Destroying all summons will make Raze summon more, so a good strategy is to leave one alive while resupplying. In general, the key to this fight is maintaining a medium to long distance to the boss and the summons for as much as possible. Since all enemies in this arena employ ranged attacks, this simple strategy allows you to deal consistent damage while also providing you a better opportunity to dodge incoming attacks. Upgrading your weapons to deal enough damage to stagger the skulls will help greatly, as this stops their movement and also prevents them from executing their long-range attacks. I almost forgot to mention something relatively important. Don't stray too far near the edges of the walkways and make sure you have ample of space before performing a directional dodge. If you accidentally walk, run or roll off the walkways, you will fall into the radioactive pool and instantly die. Raze's main attack is to spew forth multiple blobs of fire in your direction, which are best dodged by standing behind cover or running away. It occasionally performs a barrel roll in the air when aimed at, so consider holding your first shot just a fraction of a second longer than usual as to not waste it. This type of dodge mechanic is the same as for the Flying Skulls. When Raze screams, it is the best damage opportunity, because it opens up its weak spot in the center while being momentarily immobilized by its own action. Regardless if Raze stays above ground or goes into the radioactive pool afterwards, you will have to prioritize dealing with the summons first. After the scream, regardless if Raze stays above ground or goes into the radioactive pool afterwards, you will have to prioritize dealing with the summons first. However, if it does dive into the pool, you can quickly dispatch most of the summons, then you will be free to scour the arena for more ammunition, or to pop a blood vial or ammo box. When below 50% health, Raze starts using another ability, where it first tilts its body upwards to charge energy, then releases a continuous barrage of flames in your general direction. If you have no defensive mods in place, I would suggest to simply run away and to stay in cover during this attack. Otherwise, you will be readily set on fire. If you feel confident, you can try to take some sneaky shots around the pillars for some additional damage, but if you're trying to aim for the center, you are already too far out of cover and will get hit. Since the burning status effect can stack up to 3 times, this could mean a lot of trouble if you're not ready to douse the flames quickly. Again, a hydrocoolant could come in handy. As stated previously, difficulty-wise I rank Raze as one of the easier bosses. I typically beat it within 1 to 2 tries on any difficulty and trait rank as long as I bring enough ammunition. I would say the worst thing that could happen is if it spawns with the Skull Cracker trait and you get caught by its fire barrage attack, because then you'll be continuously staggered until you're either dead or have taken a substantial amount of damage. There is no alternative way to put an end to Raze. Simply shoot it until it dies. I'll let the fight play out for the remaining 90 seconds, but if you want to skip right to the end of it, you can go to 1935. With Raze defeated, the Sentinel Shard is obtained, which can be used in the ward to craft the Beacon weapon mod. Beacon summons up to 2 Wasteland Skulls that fly around near you and deal ranged damage to enemies in your vicinity for up to 60 seconds. The weapon mod itself has a pretty low power requirement, so you should be readily able to have 2 of them up at the same time. Since they are flying around and deal ranged damage, they are more versatile than the Root Hollows summoned by the Seed Collar mod. After exiting Raze's arena, I made my way back to the center point of the Scouring Wastes, which was the Monolith. We already saw the back of the Monolith in the previous episode, where the Monolith puzzle solution was written on the wall next to the gate. These types of gates are typically shortcuts to get back to previously accessed areas. However, since I went through the Shackled Canyon to get to the Monolith, the map layout threw me off for a bit. Anyhow, after getting my bearings straight, this meant that my next destination was the main dungeon and world boss fight. So I headed west into the bunker. The bunker is the same type of dungeon as the burrows we went through in the previous episode, which led to the Houndmaster fight. The main difference this time around is that instead of a side boss, this dungeon leads to the world boss named the Harrow. The dungeon contained no new special enemies, but I did find one extra Simulacrum and the Leech Ember ring. Feel free to skip ahead to 2718 or 2803 for the Simulacrum or Leech Ember respectively.
It's over.
Leech Ember is a simple ring that returns 5% of all melee damage dealt back as health to the wearer. In the past, I used this ring together with the Riven Scythe for an effective lifesteal build, and I have also used it together with the Scrap Hammer for some big hit paybacks. However, ultimately I find it lacking compared to many other melee items in the game. Not to mention that the game itself heavily disfavors strictly melee builds. There isn't really much else to say about this dungeon. Be sure to clear Blight Skulls before they reach you, stay in motion while fighting the Hive Skulls, use the corners for cover and keep your rear clear from Wasteland Skulls. As it typically goes, at the end of the dungeon I revisited the ward to purchase some upgrading materials, and this time I also crafted 2 additional Dragon Hearts. Then it was high time to face the Harrow. The Harrow is one of the 2 world bosses you may find on Rhom, the other one being Claviger. It is a beastly looking boss with giant claws made from both metal and bone, and a back prickled with an arsenal of rusted sword pieces as well as a spear embedded under its left shoulder blade. This boss is strictly melee oriented, so I would recommend a middle range engagement tactic, allowing you to maintain fire while moving backwards away from it. This ensures a consistent damage output while also giving you enough space to dodge away from the large claw swipe attacks, which have a very long reach. There are 2 cycles in this fight. The first cycle features a one-on-one battle with the Harrow. You can choose to fight him upstairs or downstairs in the bunker, however I personally find only detriments in the lower position as it is more cramped, features less visibility and is also more challenging to navigate. There are also dead ends in the lower part of the bunker, which is less than ideal when you have a boss and a handful of angry mobs chasing you. The upper room is definitely a better location for fighting the Harrow, especially so when you consider the second cycle, where the Harrow runs away and calls in lurkers and ghasts. Staying on the top allows you to maintain full awareness of the adds, so you can eliminate them before the Harrow comes back. Since there are only 2 places where the adds will come from, you should be able to pick them off if you stay in the middle of the room, allowing you a simultaneous view of both entry points. Be careful though, because if the fight drags on for too long, the Harrow might break open both other doors as well, at which point your best bet for survival would be to pick a corner and stand your ground as best as you can. In the corridors encompassing the upper floor, there are large pipes containing radiation. These may be readily broken by the Harrow's melee attacks, or by a dying ghast for example, leading to a large radiation explosion. If you get caught in the blast, you will take significant damage from the initial detonation, and also suffer from radiation damage when passing through the cloud. Some trivia about those pipes is that in the past, the leftover radiation cloud would inherit the same damage value as the damage dealt to break the pipe. This meant that if the boss broke the pipe and you tried running through the cloud, you would take the same amount of damage as from one of its melee attacks. I am not certain if this bug still exists, but you may want to play it safe and destroy all pipes with a lower damage weapon if you plan to run through the corridors a lot. The boss's main attack patterns are medium-ranged swipe attacks in various combinations and directions. If you stay in front of it, you will likely encounter the single arm swipes for the most part, either as a single or 2-hit combination. Another common attack is the double-armed grab attack, which will likely kill you if you get caught by it. If you do end up behind it, there is also a deceptively fast behind the back attack that the Harrow can do, so watch out for that. Finally, there are the less common triple and quadruple swipe attack combinations that I rank as the most difficult to dodge. The most efficient way to dodge these is to dodge forwards into the first swipe, which will make the Harrow lurch past you, allowing you some extra shots while it completes the combo. But if you like to stay in front of the boss like me, you will need to dodge diagonally backwards to get out of the range of the first 2 swipes. Then wait a split second before timing the follow-up dodge for the later half of the combo. One annoying thing is that the Harrow is actually able to slightly trace you through this attack combo, and will adjust its general swipe area based on your position. It is also really difficult to tell the difference between its single, double and triple combination swipe attacks. In any case, the Harrow is mostly a big brute with plenty of HP and an annoying adds cycle. The attacks are pretty well coordinated, so you should be able to learn the dodge timings readily. After that, the best advice I would give is to bring an upgraded weapon strong enough to pick off the adds before the Harrow comes back, and any armor that allows you to take at least one hit from the boss without dying. There are no traditional weak spots in this fight. However, there is a stagger mechanic in place if you damage its legs repeatedly. After a certain amount of damage, the boss will stagger a bit and then run away earlier than usual. Repeating this process a few times makes the Harrow stumble and fall to its knees, at which point you can climb onto it and retrieve the spear embedded in its back. If you successfully retrieve the spear and then beat the boss, you will obtain the Lost Harpoon, which is a melee weapon dealing radiation damage. This is considered to be the alternative method of bringing down the Harrow. Lastly, I wanted to point out that there is a way to completely avoid the adds cycle, just like how there is a way to complete the Lost Harpoon retrieval without making the Harrow run away. Without making the explanation too complicated, it is a matter of damage dealt over time. The boss runs away if you deal too much damage within a shorter time frame, so if you space the damage out or simply keep it consistently low throughout the fight, you will be able to fight only the boss itself, skipping the pesky ghasts and lurkers. That is why in my winning attempt I did not have to deal with any of the adds. If you beat the Harrow the usual way, you are richly rewarded with a Simulacrum, Thermal Geode, the recovery trait and the Howling key. The recovery trait is important because it increases the stamina regeneration by 1 point per rank, up to a maximum of 20 points. The Thermal Geode can be used to craft the Defiler, which is a handgun that deals radiation damage. Essentially, it is akin to a pocket shotgun, firing 11 radioactive pellets in a small spread. Like most boss reward weapons, the Defiler comes with a pre-attached weapon mod called Radioactive Volley, which allows you to fire 6 radioactive projectiles that bounce off of the environment and deal damage to anything in their path. Personally, I found the bouncy projectiles more of a gimmick than actually being useful, but I admit there were specific situations where it could come in handy, such as in small corridors or other tight quarters. I guess the largest grievance I have towards the radioactive volley is that it cannot be used effectively to focus damage on enemy weak spots. But overall, I think the Defiler is a fun gun to use, and I like its elemental damage type. The Howling key is a key item required to continue the campaign. It grants passage through the Black Sun Gate, allowing you to enter the Undying Throne where the Undying King resides. After exiting the bunker, I was very close to Wood's shop, so I decided to check if I could purchase the Osseous set. Unfortunately, I was a bit low on scraps, so I could only purchase the head and the leg pieces. Afterwards, I took a moment to figure out which direction to go, and eventually went to open the path through the Black Sun Gate. However, as usual, I wanted to complete all optional areas first before continuing with the main story. I do this typically for the chance to find new items, traits or weapons, as well as earning extra scraps and upgrading materials. Feel free to skip ahead half a minute to 37:31 if you want to listen to the Monolith puzzle explanation and also see the puzzle solved. The Monolith puzzle is quite simple, especially with the solution at hand. I remember the first time I played the game, me and my friends simply brute forced our way through it. However, with the solution in hand, it turns into a very simple process. If you position yourself looking north and then look down at the center plate, you can see each cardinal direction represented by a corresponding symbol. North looks like a backwards R. East looks like a double P, south has a couple of straight lines, and west looks like a question mark with a squiggly bottom. To complete the puzzle, simply follow the directions from the solution. In total, there are only 3 types of solutions you may find on Rhom. For this playthrough I got the westwards solution, since the first tile was on the left. Personally, I think it's much easier to complete the solution if you keep your camera pointed straight. Otherwise, you might mix the directions up. Completing the puzzle nets you a decent chunk of experience and scraps, and allows you to access the shop inside the tower, where you can purchase the Void Armour set. Sadly, I found myself somewhat lacking in funds yet again, so I left the shop without purchasing even a single piece, and made my way to the next side dungeon. With only one side dungeon remaining, it was easy to guess it was going to be the Vault of the Herald. The dungeon follows the same style as the one leading into the bunker, so there isn't much new to discuss, other than the additional glowing rod I picked up. Since I only managed to find 2 glowing rods in my journey through Rhom, it meant that I would only be able to open 2 out of the 3 vault doors at the end of the dungeon. If you want to skip ahead to the end of the dungeon, you can skip to 5709 in the video.
It's over.
Behind each of the 3 vault doors lies one piece of the Akari set, which is an armor set specializing in perfect dodging enemy attacks. If you successfully dodge an enemy attack, the set provides an increase in firing, melee, reload and evade speed for 20 seconds. 1, 2 and 3 pieces provide a 7.5, 15 and 30% speed boost respectively. It is a light armor set and thus provides you with the fastest roll by default. However, it has many shortcomings in terms of overall damage reduction and could be considered more of a specialized set than something most people would like to use. I've used it in the past for melee builds or challenge runs focusing on melee fighting, but as I've said many times throughout this video series, the best tactic on Apocalypse difficulty is to pick your target off at a safe distance before they can hurt you. The Akari set not only goes completely against this principle, but favors complete recklessness while simultaneously offering very little in terms of personal protection. But I do like the look of the alternate skin for this set, which is in all black. At this point, I was a bit tired of getting sand in my boots, so I quickly went to purchase the full Void set and then went back to Wood to collect the Osseous armor chest piece. If the Akari set was created for the Daredevil playstyle, then the Void armor was created for a more collected player. It is a heavy armor set providing a significant amount of armor at the cost of higher stamina consumption and slower dodge rolls. It is also the same type of armor set as all the Anointed wear. Before the Swamps of Corsus and Subject 2923 DLCs, this used to be the second strongest armor in the game, and the highest armor that still allowed you to perform regular rolls. The passive ability grants a 25% movement increase while aiming down sights, and the power transfer ability kicks in after 5 seconds and boosts all damage by 7.5, 15 and 25%, depending on how many pieces you wear. Taking damage transfers the boost to your defense instead for 5 seconds. If you don't get hit within this period, the boost will be transferred to your offense again. With its high armor value and good overall abilities, I would rank this as a very player-friendly armor set, and I used it successfully during my hardcore playthrough. As long as you can mitigate the downsides of the slower roll, for example with the Lethos Amulet or Twisted Idol, or simply by neutral dodging or not dodging at all, this set will work for almost every given situation. On the way back to Wood, I decided to wake up the Ancient Construct using the Control Rod, which was obtained in the previous video after destroying the crystal in the Houndmaster's head. The Ancient Construct seems like an Anointed with a swordsman's double-ended glaive, and has the ability to fire radiation orbs from a distance. The main difference from the regular mobs is the ability to summon sentinel turrets during the fight. The Ancient Construct readily summons 2 turrets simultaneously, which will immediately start firing at you as long as you stay within their line of sight. Overall, the fight is very simple, due to the boss's limited moveset and generally slow movement. The main challenge instead lies in dealing with the turrets. If you are able to readily dispose of the turrets, the fight will be over relatively pain-free. I ended up dying during my first attempt because I mistimed a reload with my sidearm, forcing me to run away from the turrets which both spawned behind me, placing me right in front of the charging boss who rendered me lifeless through the side of the wall.
Okay, this is it! Oh, shit!
After a couple of attempts, I managed to beat it rather effortlessly and was rewarded with the Ancient Core, which can be used to craft the Iron Sentinel weapon mod, which in turn allows you to summon up to 2 turrets simultaneously. With the Ancient Construct defeated, I paid Wood a final visit to purchase the Osseous chestpiece and the Mender's Charm. At the end of Rhom, my trait rank had reached level 84, and I had spent most of my trait points into maximizing weak spot damage and reload speed, with some points being put into additional damage over time effects, stamina and bonus experience gains. After completing the entirety of Rhom in one sitting, it was high time to take a break. In the last video I remember saying that we would see the Undying King in this video. However, I think it makes more sense to continue the series starting from the Hall of the Undying King and continue the journey from there. As always, thank you for staying with me to the end of the video. As made evident by the upload frequency of this video series, it takes a long time to complete each of these narrated playthroughs, so please click the thumbs up button if you like the content, and if you haven't done so already, consider subscribing to my channel. I hope to see you in the next one, where we will finally get to see the Undying King. This time, I promise,